I say tomato.
And I say massa chessi.
And I say potato.
What?
Let's call the whole thing off.
Hello and welcome back once more to the continuing adventures, the expedition into deepest, darkest D'Amato land. That is the D'Amato Files. With me, Clive Davis, him,
Nick.
And
Gavin Whittaker.
Right. And yes, we got 8 more Aristide Massachesi joints. Because there's something fucking wrong with us, obviously.
Yeah, I'm glad that we're not like we used to do with the lenses, doing any kind of countdown where we remind ourselves of how many we have left to watch. I find it easier to deal with just in these 8 film chunks as opposed to even considering what's left.
Yeah, it's like climbing the side of the Eiger and just don't look down. Right? Just
yes,
one handhold in front at a time is how we'll all get through this. And we're all tethered together, so that's the thing, right? So
one of us goes.
Yeah. Okay, right. So we'll kick off. We're still in 1976. Ladies' Doctor. Paid expression on Gavin's face.
I'd like to take credit with having furnished us with not 1 but 2 copies of this with different English options, because initially I think, Clive, you couldn't find a copy that had English, and then
Kojo de la Mutua, right? I guess something like that. Yes.
And I somehow managed to find an English dub and a subtitled version, which I had to watch both of, because the subtitles on my version just seemed to stop about 10 minutes before the end of the film, and I had to watch the last chunk dubbed.
Yeah, I watched them side by side just to see if there was any. I mean, there's only like a minute in them, but it was a pretty much entirely a frame rate issue. Although the Italian one ran longer, oddly enough. But so the English dub seemed to just, I don't know, it just seemed more than anything else, if there was like a real change or something, it was like we missed those 2 seconds, never mind, kind of thing. So there was not much in the shape of censorship. I wanted to mention that. So this film, I've known about for a while because it's in here.
Okay.
The Delirium 1975 to 1979 guide, and let's see if I can find a picture here to illustrate. Talk amongst yourselves.
Well, I did have a bit of high hopes for this one since it had a UK video release in the pre-cert era, but good God.
Well, it's an Italian comedy to begin with, so right away that should raise all kinds of warning bells. And I'm a big fan of Italian.
Me and Gav apologize for Nick's racism.
No, I'm going to say I am a big fan of Italian genre cinema, but comedy is I think the hardest of all of the Italian. I don't know whether it's just because comedy itself is so cultural and situational, or just
okay. Let's be fair. So you're just a comedy racist.
Yeah. I just don't like no. Anyway, This well, Gav, while he's looking that up, do you want to go ahead and explain the story of the Ladies' Doctor?
So gynecologist has to throw some sex at his clients for some reason, and his boss is sort of diddling the books or something like that. It's bad, isn't it?
Yes, Renzo Montagani, right? Who's they seem to have taken him for a dupe, so they've put him in place. I couldn't quite understand what the
scam
is in the
it was a bit mysterious, like the other 2. Well, there's the famous gynecologist who's done something. Oh, there's a nice little
this is the picture that's in. It's kind of difficult to tell here, but because of this picture, for many years before seeing the film, I assumed the protagonist, Renzo Montegani, was a black man. But
Right.
I was quite surprised that there was this white dude starring in it. I thought it was a black guy who starred in this film, but
That
thanks.
looks like Albert Moses on the cover, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. That's on Inter-Ocean Video. That was.
Nice.
Guessing that's probably very fucking expensive to get your hands on. Why would you want to?
I can't imagine.
This would be a
yeah.
better film if Robert Mosley was in it, actually.
Yes, yeah, and this is not the first time as well that Renzo Montagnani has been like cast as like an unstoppable sex beast Lothario, which doesn't really track with what he looks like in any way, shape, or form. But he's also in like When Women Had Tails, and he's in several films where he plays like someone who's somehow incredibly attractive to women.
Yeah, so yeah, the scam is so there is a scam, and then he ends up. So he's also fronting like a almost like a welfare clinic kind of place.
Yeah, he's a gynecologist, and he has his own little practice.
Then, he gets put as a front man in this kind of
high class.
Yeah, for rich women, and yeah, which is just a front for him shagging them basically, and he gets very tired, obviously.
Yeah.
And, Paolo Senatori is his white stocking tops secretary, giving off very strong Sharon Mitchell vibes, I thought.
Right.
She's very Sharon Mitchell-like, isn't she? She's one of the highlights. Yeah, and that is pretty much, yeah, again, I've never quite got my head around what the
purpose of putting him in there was exactly.
No. But the guy who tried to trick him had his just desserts because he ends up in Polynesia at the end somehow. Again, I wasn't quite sure how that happened either.
Nope.
I kind of enjoyed this.
Please explain, Clive.
I mean, it whipped along, right? I mean, like, it moved at a very fast pace, and if you got bored, there's another bit of eye candy, and there's some more kind of goofy, stupid comedy, and I don't know, it wasn't boring. Did you find it boring?
I don't think I...
Gav says yes.
Okay, yeah, well, yeah, maybe Gav, you take that then.
Well, clearly I'm demented because Gav has all the time in the world for, I mean, I don't think anyone's scraped the bottom of the British sex comedy barrel quite as hard and insistently as Gav, right? So if he found it boring, clearly there's something wrong with me.
I don't know. I think a lot of the comedy is lost in translation though. It's like, it's probably as boring to us as, the What's Up Super Doc is in Italy.
Yeah, actually it is a bit Super Doc, yeah. Or maybe not lost in translation, just not funny is also the other possibility.
I don't know. It seems to like and not much sexual content compared to the Emanuelle film. It seems to like more of he's trying more to do a comedy than a sex film.
Yeah, but there's plenty of nudity in it.
Yeah, but not to the extent of the Emanuelle film.
No, there's no hardcore inserts. That's for sure.
No, no. And I laugh. I have to admit, I'm an easy prey maybe, but I did laugh out loud when he just went, "I should have been a dentist." I thought that was funny. I would watch Renzo Montagnani in the erotic dentist film too. Let's put it that way.
The sequel, The Further Adventures of Ladies Doctor.
Yeah, and he says something as well, like, what does he say? He says, "Then I only have to get inside the mouth" or something, which kind of has a strange double meaning, which I, appreciated.
There's some weird stuff too. Like there's several subplots that kind of meander around the place and don't really go anywhere. There's the one about like at one point I thought he was being abducted by the mafia because he kind of ends up in a car and driven out to this like building site in the middle of nowhere. And I was like, oh, like what's going on here? And it turns out to be this builder that the previous gynecologist is in some sort of relationship, like business relationship with, right? and then it's his like virginal frigid wife that can't get pregnant or whatever, and that was all kind of, I was like, what is this plot line? And like, and then eventually he's the one who keeps showing up. He's the builder who keeps showing up and sitting in the waiting room while Renzo is shagging this, like, his wife, behind the wall. And then there's the whole thing with his wife, who is a lesbian, right? And that sort of, it doesn't go anywhere. It's just like there's no resolution at all to what's going on with their relationship, or
I mean,
maybe I had expectations that, like, even in a comedy film, you might want to tie up a few loose ends, or
Well, I got on all right with it. I mean, let's put it this way: I certainly got on. I mean, in comparison to our next one,
yes,
Vow of Chastity, which I mean, well, we didn't have any subtitles at all for this, right?
No, that doesn't help.
To be fair,
are we done? I'm trying to look at my notes for a second. Just I might have one or two.
I'm trying to get away from it, but you keep coming back. So
well, no, it's I would say
I'm the one who enjoyed it.
It opens up with a scene of a bunch of women protesting, like a bunch of radical feminists protesting.
Yes, actually, that is worth mentioning, because I was wondering what they're protesting.
Completely unclear.
Because they don't seem to be pro anti-abortion. They just seem to be anti-men being gynecologists.
Maybe. And they're throwing this kind of like vaginal sign thing, like with their hands, though. So
I reckon they saw the video cover from Into Ocean, up expecting Robert Mosley, and got pissed off that rather than a muscular, hot black dude, it was this pudgy Italian with a Pringles mustache. And they were just furious.
That could well be it. And then there was one scene where things are going from bad to worse for him, right? And as you said, he's exhausted, and it all gets very you remember Harry Ream's character in the original Deep Throat, who ends up with a tiny sling on his dick at some point near the end of the film, right?
Wow. Yes, of course, who could forget?
Yeah. So it started to kind of make me think a little bit of that. But then there's this scene where one of the women shows up and she's clearly into like rough play.
Yes, and it turns into
a punching match. Scene goes kind of over the top with full on him punching her in the face and stuff. And I was like, whoa, settle down.
It's just a bit of fun, Nick.
All right. Okay.
Right. Will you now allow me to move on?
I'm finished with ladies.
You fool.
Okay.
Yes, Vow of Chastity then. Written by George Eastman.
Yeah. Not your finest work, George.
So what's this one? Like we said, we didn't have it. Can I have a go at what I think the plot is, and then we can add something if either of you well, he definitely goes, or he doesn't go actually to see it, but he almost goes to see Tarzan, Shame of the Jungle in the cinema.
You mean Tarzoon?
Tarzoon, yes.
Shame of the Jungle, yes, with its marching penises, and soundtrack by Magma.
Yeah.
It almost made me think I haven't seen that in so many years, and I know it's awful, but it made me think, oh fuck, I should see that again.
Film crack, here we come.
All right.
So it seems to be a young man goes home from the seminary. This is what I could piece together from watching the film, guesswork, using Google Translate and looking up different plot synopses. There's a young man who's at a seminary, I think, or something like that, goes home. I guess he's either graduated or it's for the weekend or something, because the patriarch of the family, Jacques Dufilot, who also plays his brother, who's like a bishop.
Yes.
He's dying, right? And it seems as if the family business is prostitution, maybe.
Yes.
And according to this is what I couldn't quite figure out, is he's planning to, this young man in the seminary has come home, is he going to be the heir to the family, putting to set up
but he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to
set up a old folks home for old hookers, right, or something like that. but then he doesn't want to because obviously you think the clue would have been when he went to the fucking seminary
Yes.
years earlier, right? One assumes, but anyway, and so there, and then there's a girl who enters the picture, and he eventually loses his virginity to the girl at the end, where the whole family is going, "Woohoo! He's not a prude or a puff or whatever."
And not just that, but under the most fucking sketchy of circumstances, because the only way they can get him into bed with her is to have him believe that his mother has just been murdered in front of his eyes.
There's that. Plus, as well, speaking of the mother, he also wants to fuck his mother, right? Because
that's why he can't have sex with anybody else, because he's deeply in this Oedipal mess, right?
But I'm not sure on this, but I'm wondering if you could see this with subtitles. It might work a little bit, just because the story is potentially so twisted that it could work as a very pitch black comedy.
Right.
Maybe. What do you think?
There's a lot of mugging in this, particularly between, it's the same actor, right? The actor who plays the dad and also the uncle who's the priest.
Dr. Philo, yeah.
Yeah. The movie could do with less of him gurning. But it's weird. It is weird because it has this kind of unsavory thing going on beneath the surface with
unsavory is a good word, I think.
His obsession with his mom, and he has this extended dream sequence, right, where he murders family members and then kind of sexually assaults his mother, and then
when you say unsavory as well, even though it's right, that doesn't mean that we mean it's sweet.
No.
What sweet little film this is. Lovely, isn't it?
I read a review where somebody said it was almost a dry run for some of these kind of like what is it? Is it Boy Omega? What's the film about the young
Beyond Darkness?
Yeah. In some ways, he's almost a similar type.
Yeah, well, we'll be getting there.
Good looking, and so maybe he was trying out some of these things in a comedy setting before coming back to them in a horror one.
How'd you get on with this one, Gav?
Well, better than I did Lady Doctor anyway, but I think without subtitle, it does come across as like a lot of yelling and gesturing and, almost like a sort of film stage pass, sort of like Ray Cooney sort of usually over here, Run for Your Life, or in this case, Run for Your Mama.
Yeah, it does have a certain amount of door slamming comedy towards the end, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What's the one they watch in The Young Ones? Oh, crikey! I think is the sitcom they watch in that, right? Oh, the vicar's just come round and my trousers have just fallen down. Oh, crikey! Yeah, there's a little bit of that. Laura Gemsa's in it, though.
Yeah, I was going to say, that we need to bring that up because it's funny. I've read a bunch of reviews of this that say that like this is their first film together.
No.
And then I'm thinking, well, that if we're doing this chronologically correctly, then that can't be the case because we've done a brace of films that they were already.
Mind you, we are going by release order. It's entirely possible, I suppose, things might have been.
They might have done that earlier.
They fucking missed it.
But in the opening credits, though, her name's in the box, isn't it? Like special guest appearance.
That's true. Right?
Yeah. I think suggests he was already a star when they made this one.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, with the extraordinary participation of. That's my favorite in Italian films.
They missed a trick, though. They really missed a trick. You have Laura Gemsa in your film as a maid, and it's only in the very last scene, and they don't dwell on it. They put her in the French maid.
The French maid costume. Yeah, she looks great.
Dude, why didn't you do that earlier? I would have been much more interested. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say his girlfriend.
Dude, obviously, because we get on well. I mean, Joey Dude.
But I will say that his girlfriend she's quite well endowed. She's I was pleased with her when she you didn't understand why he kept running away. I was like, get it together, man. Your girlfriend's got a decent pair of hangers on her.
The seminary will do that to a man.
But was he not thrown in the ceremony in the first place for being a weird little mummy's boy with? Like there was that whole scene where he was in bed with mom, and it seemed like it was intimating towards I don't know what.
Yes, and at the beginning, the scenes on the beach and listening at the beach hut, and
right.
Yeah, he's supposed to have been. Yeah, I think he was supposed to be supposed to be set on the straight and narrow, but not that straight and narrow.
Like a bit Michael in burial ground sort of territory at times.
Yes. Yeah, I thought exactly that. When I saw that the kid playing the part of the young one, I was like, "Ooh, that looks distressingly like that weird little freak from Burial Ground."
Oh, I don't know. No one looks quite like that weird little freak. He's special.
It's sad to say that I was thinking, well, at least nobody bites anybody's tit off. But then I realized it's going to happen in something else we talk about today. So
yeah, that's true.
Oh well, just not this film.
Right. Shall we?
Oh, and also I will say that this has spoilers for anyone who decides to watch this sans subs. But this movie ends with, I think, the business maybe not being signed over properly, because the old guys, like, they're all whooping it up because kids finally nailing abroad in the next room, because he's just seen his mum shot, and he's like, that's what I needed to get it up. Fantastic. And then I think that the dad dies at the moment of the kid's or his son's orgasm. Like, I'm pretty sure that that's what's intimated at the very end there.
Yeah. Well, it could. I mean, it's a stretch, but it's on the edges of sub-Buñuelian, I would say. It's almost there. It's almost there.
Right.
But probably not. But I would say, if this turned up subtitled, I would give this another go.
Okay. The discreet charm of Laura Gemser in a French maid's outfit.
Yeah, exactly. What that's something. That ain't nothing.
Yep.
Right. You done that, Nick?
I'm fine. Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
okay. In that case, I have a suggestion, lads.
Okay.
Let's take a picture of love. No special light is needed to take a picture of love. Wow, what a theme tune. This theme tune's actually been knocking around my head for about 20 years, I think, since I first saw this film. I never quite forgot this incredibly sappy kind of shoehorned, just that transition from picture, no special lighting needed to take a picture. Yes. Oh, yeah. It's sublimely crap, that theme tune. I'm assuming it's Nico Fidenko, who does some fantastic, like, Giorgio Moroder rip-off stuff here, but
just across the board, actually, all of these films, that's one place where I don't think you can fault really any of them, is in soundtrack, because some of them have just incredible.
Yes, but you can't falter that when it comes to Let's Take a Picture of Love.
Well, maybe.
But then again, it is, I have actually literally been singing it, or it's fucking ridiculous. I'll go to the toilet, I'll go make a cup of tea, it's just, it's terrible. Anyway, yeah, Emanuelle Around the World, or Degradation of Emanuelle, or Confessions of Emanuelle. Okay. I mean, it starts with Laura Gemser fucking Paul Thomas, right? The American adult movie star.
So I was going to ask, was that, okay, that actually is him.
That is him as a trucker.
Right. Also looks a bit like young Clancy Brown to me, does Paul Thomas. But that's neither here nor there.
No, it's funny. I was just looking at because I watched these out of order. I realized this doesn't make any sense, but she turns up in, I think it's San Francisco, right? She gets a lift from him, and he asks her, "Oh, where have you?" And she says, "Oh, I just turned up on a boat," right?
Yes.
So it makes a nice segue.
Yes.
To consider it a sequel to Emanuelle and the White Slave Trade, but it's the wrong way around.
Yeah. But I wonder if these
extended universe of Emanuelle, Black Emanuelle, sorry.
They weren't, I mean, if they weren't all just filmed, like for all the scenes with like Bert, her her long-suffering editor or whatever, like if they weren't all just shot at the same time.
Who's different in this one? That's one
thing.
Yes,
he does.
Watching them all together, it's the nice same little white-haired old man in the other ones, but it's a different one in this one.
Yes. But I wondered if in a lot of that stuff would have been just shot at the same time.
You know, you're watching too many Black Emanuelle films if you notice that kind of
And Bert's been switched out on you.
Yes. Hang on,
That's
this
not
is
Bert.
the real thing. I demand the real Bert. Yes, so Emanuelle Around the World kicks off with fake Bert sending Gemza off
to India.
Yes.
Yes. To meet a very not Indian guru. It's fucking George Eastman doing Mike Myers' The Love Guru, which nobody ever needed to see.
Nick, now I heard him speak. He had an Indian accent.
Actually, I thought the dub job was okay. It was like not as insulting and kind of broad as sometimes those things can be. But it's definitely Luigi Montefiore is not a man from the Indian subcontinent. I'm fairly certain.
You only know that because we're researching it at the moment for another video. Yes, and he exclaims that I am love, right? And he's a love guru.
He's like Sting, right? He's invented like the 9-hour tantric sex ultimate orgasm, according to him. And you go and stay at his retreat and learn how to achieve the ultimate orgasm.
Right, but hilariously comes too soon.
Well, yes,
because it's Laura Gemza, right?
Yes,
And
she meets, and then so kind of our MacGuffin here. She meets a young girl who's hiding out there, kind of, right? Who it turns out has been gang raped.
Right?
Yeah, and she's somehow connected to the white. This is one of the 2 white slave trade films, right? Because basically that's what this film turns into, right? It turns into an investigation of the white slave trade.
It's a bit of a it's a shell game, right? Because you're kind of enjoying this Eastman love guru goofiness, and then it gets all serious on you all of a sudden, right? And this film degenerates fairly quickly into some pretty dark places. I would say maybe putting it second only to Emanuelle in America as my favorite of the series. Just how demented.
I don't think the sort of notoriety of Emanuelle in America, or even Emanuelle in Last Cannibals, even though it's pretty extreme film.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is one of those ones that people, and maybe now that the Severin box set is out, people might change. Yeah, but for a while people didn't. I remember seeing it and thinking it was pretty interesting. But yeah, you didn't, like you said, it's usually in America and Last Cannibals are the 2 that come up. In I suppose because well, in America was Last Cannibals wasn't a video nasty, was it?
No, I don't think so.
No, I don't think it was. I don't know if they were daft enough to
even try.
Yeah, release it. I don't know. It might have come out in the UK. Actually, I don't.
Possibly have, but
Yes, it wasn't called Trap Them and Kill Them. It Trap Them and Let Them Go would have been the BBC approved version of Emanuelle.
It's a catch and release cannibal film, right?
Yeah. So then it just switches on a dime, and we're introduced to Karina Schubert, right, who's another investigative journalist who likes taking her clothes off and having sex a lot. And she's been investigating, white slavery, and Emanuelle wants in on the scoop. So we start.
She suddenly develops a big social conscience in this one all of a sudden, and wants to do real, proper investigative journalism and expose ugly truths about the world. And Rasimov shows up, and I think, again, spoilers, but there's a great twist ending where Rasimov turns out not to be the guy who's the head of the white slave trade. Because as soon as he shows up, I'm like, oh yeah. I mean, he's going to be the bad guy.
Rasimov was a weird role here because he kind of just turns up and falls for Emanuelle, and every now and again reappears, and they kiss, and then he goes, well, I think I may be falling in love with you, Emanuelle, and then fucks off because he's head of the
UN
Third World Aid Committee for the UN. So he kind of he's used a little bit, so they facilitate him to go here and there, but he doesn't really have much to do other than being
and totally cast against type, right? As he turns out to actually be what he claims to be at the beginning, which is the sensitive new age man concerned about the ills of the world, right? And you're like, how is What?
And amazingly as well, is he does a really good job of playing an European white man, considering he's Thai aristocracy in real life, as we know
As we do know from
Emanuelle in Bangkok.
You'd never guess.
He's Siamese through and through, that Ivan. Yes. So then it starts off in Rome, and yeah, she gets herself picked up by this pickup gang, handsome young man, who end up selling them off to, and then we're suddenly in scary territory with this Craig Hill is this really badly scarred dude.
Oh yeah, he looks like a Batman rogues gallery or fucking Dick Tracy villain. Somebody shows up to rape these girls. It was like, what the fuck?
And this seems straight out of like Female Market or some kind of Nikatsu film or something. It just goes like really rapey and dark. But then as well, that scene's kind of strange because he's there, I can't bit over this guy, whoa, and then pretty much cut to Karina Schubert and Laura Gemser like walking out of a court or something, and going like, oh well, woof. Like
those scumbags got their comeuppance. It was like some it should have come up with like scene missing, something like that. Like, what? How did they alert the police? Was there a raid? Yeah, very bizarre.
Film that bit, you know.
Yeah, it's a very odd omission. It's a very, very odd omission. So phew, they get out of that. So then it's over to
Hong
Kong.
Scene missing.
Where they hook up with someone else, and then they go to Macau ever so briefly, and then they end up in Tehran, right?
Yes.
Where you're shaking your head there, Gav. Did I miss a trick?
No, it's okay. Let's talk about that bit.
Just recalling the journey.
Yeah.
And they end up at the harem of an emir, where none other than Joe D'Amato works. He's there. His cameo, isn't he?
I didn't even notice him.
How dare you, Nick? This is the man that we're focusing on. How could you miss him? Who was he
playing?
I think he's like someone who's procuring the women for the harem, I think.
Okay.
Sounds
right.
And at some point, I think I've missed a trick. There's no, hang on. Yeah. So then they end up. They have a three-way with the emir, and then when are they kidnapped? Oh, that's in Hong Kong. Sorry, that's earlier.
Yeah, it's in Macau. I was going to say, I think you've missed
a
fairly appalling little section of the film there. Which,
yes.
You know, we could have lied. We could not talk about. That's fine. But
milk and snakes.
Yes.
And dogs.
Yeah.
The part of the film that guarantees that none of us will go to heaven.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. But no Burt Reynolds or Don Imesh voices in this.
No, yes. They get taken to Chang's Bestiality Gymnasium, I believe.
Right.
It's referred to in the film, basically.
Chan's having a good time, and I like.
Yeah, he's a bit like a Chinese Steve Buscemi kind of. He's wildly overacting.
He's straight out of like a Yellow Peril thriller from the 30s or something. Is that he's like
laughing like a hyena?
Yeah,
the whole time. Yeah, no, he's. And then when he finally does get his comeuppance, of course they don't actually show it. It's just implied that the dog is turned on him at the end, but we don't actually see him get sodomized.
Yeah, who wants to see that? That's not sexy like a dog thing.
Exactly, I guess. Thanks, Joe.
Well, so let's just dwell, if we may, for a minute here, because we don't go so far as there's no insert shots or anything, but is it just me, or does that dog look like it's fucking someone? I mean, that's a fairly astonishing simulation if it's not for real. I mean, everything's in the correct place.
I don't know. I mean, it's not the first of these films we've had this kind of scene, and it's not the last of these films is going to have a scene like this in it. And up until now, some of it's been not exactly simulated, right? So,
but it looked pretty. I mean, I don't think it's the same actress. It's edited, but it's well done. I mean, that's the thing with this kind of thing. It's so easy to overlook it and but let's talk about it. Like, if you're gonna do it, I mean, it's well done, isn't it? It's a good bestiality scene.
All right, Clive. Can we get back to Tehran now, please?
You virtue signaling motherfucker. Okay. Yes, and from there, and then it goes kind of dark again, because they hook up with a senator, and this is back in New York now, isn't it? And they end up. Do they take some woman out? I was a bit confused. Is that a gang of homeless men, or just like a street gang or something?
Seems like it's our combination of
what with the dog stuff and then taking a girl out to be fucked by homeless people, I was thinking this must have been a hit in Japan.
I was also unfortunately thinking that as well. In fact,
these tropes have resurfaced in Japanese adult videos. Not that we'd know anything about that, but we've heard from other people.
Yes.
But yes, and and that gets out of control, and that gets quite nasty.
Yeah, I think I wrote a note here that just said there's something just so misanthropic and soul scarifying about like some of these Emanuelle films. They're just like, they trundle along and they're cutesy or silly, and then they just go really dark. Like they just have a real lack of any belief in the decency of human nature, or like just people are shit.
Rabbit punch all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But it's all right, because let's take a picture of love. No special lighting needed to take a picture of love. No, this is great stuff. I think this is second only to Emanuelle in America for me, for this. Just a little, because of the tonal shifts. When it goes dark, it's just such a demented little in fact, I would argue Emanuelle in America is so fucked up that we talked about this, obviously, it goes to its own plane of existence, almost like a cannibal holocaust or something. But if you're talking about a more well put together blend that doesn't drag at all, I'm wondering if Emanuelle around the world actually works even better than Emanuelle in America. What do we think? Which do you prefer, Gav?
Probably this one then, around the world. It's just so unpredictable, isn't it? It's like Joe playing Russian roulette, and is he going to fire blanks, or is he going to blow our mind?
Yes, that's a pretty good analogy, the tomato roulette.
I would agree too. I think it probably is the better film in a way. It hangs together. It's more of a piece.
Right. It just doesn't quite go as berserk as in America, right? But
it's also it's funny because that scene also, which is very grim and it's very rapey. Again, also smash cuts to like next morning, and then like the police are there, and they're clearly the girls have been
Well, it seems like she might die.
Trauma.
She's actually been raped to death, right?
Yeah, but also but then also Emanuelle and her reporter friend, they've all been like assaulted, right? That's what it's intimated to me. And then
but that's all right, because Ivan's on cue with his yacht.
Yeah, he shows up then. Yes.
Yeah. Take a picture of love.
Yeah.
Yes. Whatever the fuck that means. That's all I know, that there's no special lighting needed. So you don't have to worry about having the correct.
Yeah, you're not gonna. Love is never underexposed, Clive. Right. It's always just fine.
Fabrizio De Angelis, a production manager, we should mention. Script co-written Gianfranco Clerici and Maria Piafusco, who wrote for that Bluebeard film with Richard Burton and Slong Kitty, and has some interesting credits to her name. No, this is, I mean, this is fun for all the family, I think, this one, isn't it?
No, Clive, I would not recommend this to anyone. That would be a relationship ender, I think.
Oil sport.
Yeah, it's funny. There's also, I was going to say, one thing that surprised me a little bit is that in a lot of these films, there's they're pretty clear about when things are hardcore inserts, and they're pretty clear about like when, like, Laura Gemser is doing certain things in the film and doing, not doing other things, right?
Right.
But this is one where there's a scene where she and her friend and the Emir are all together, and you can clearly see that he's fully nude, and they are kind of interacting with his dick more than I would have expected in full shot, where you're like, oh, that's really Gemser, and that's really that other actress, and that's really that dude, and they're all kind of proper. Yeah, it's not hardcore, but there was more going on there than I would have expected, given that it's not her husband, who is not even in this one, right?
He's not in this one, no.
Yes.
He's had this one out. Yeah, no, it's great. There's that thing, Quentin Tarantino has that thing about, if he's getting serious about dating someone, he shows them Rio Bravo, and if they don't like it, then it can't be. I think Emanuelle Around the World serves that purpose for me. Like, if I'm getting serious about dating someone, if they don't like Emanuelle Around the World, then yeah, we can't be together.
That's how incels get started, Clive. That's exactly
they get a bad rap.
Yeah, they certainly do.
Okay.
All right. So what are we on to the first of these fake Mondos?
No. Hold on. I can tell you're keen, Nick, but first we have to trap them. And
of course.
Them.
We've got some cannibals. Yeah.
Yeah. Co-written with Romano Scandariato, the guy who co-directed Frattasio da Valeri back in our first episode that seems so long ago.
Padre.
Yeah, so this one is confusing from the beginning, because apparently it's a true story as reported by Jennifer O'Sullivan.
Yeah, what the fuck is that credit all about?
I don't know who she is. And also in some versions, they don't even call her Emanuelle, right? They call her Laura. So, but the nice white-haired editor is back. Bert is returned.
Mm-hmm.
So I could rest these that he's back.
Right.
Couldn't put up with that fake Bert much longer. Yes, this one starts with Emanuelle undercover.
Oh yes, with that undercover, holding that giant
doll with a camera with a loud shutter noise. Yeah. Yes, very inconspicuous. Like, there's even one scene when she's like, "Oh, hang on," and she like steps back a bit so she can take a photo. It reminded me of Chastity Morgan's breast cameras in Double Agent 73, right, where she lifts a tit and there's like yes, so she's at a psych ward in New York, and wouldn't you know it, a nurse gets her breast bitten off, and there's a woman there, Cindy Ledbetter, who was a playmate for Italian Playboy, I believe.
Okay.
She also she starred in the film Tight Fit, and she also turns up in Rats, the Bruno Mattei classic, Adventures of Hercules, and we'll be seeing her again. She turns up in Absurd.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, and this poor girl apparently was discovered wandering about in the Amazon, and
yeah, she's a kind of Tarzan with a cannibal problem.
Tarzoon, Shame of the
Tarzoon.
Jungle.
Yes,
which we saw in an earlier animated film. And a tattoo above her pubis.
Yes.
Reveals that she might have been in contact with some kind of rare cannibal tribe. So it's
the titular last cannibals.
Exactly. Yeah. So she's off to see Gabrielle Tinti.
So now is this? Here's a question. So this film comes out, the first of these really is the Ivan Rasimov Man from Deep River, right?
Yes.
And then there's a kind of a little bit of a gap, and then Deodato makes his last Cannibal World, right? This is one of these breaks that comes out, I assume, after.
Well, it's interesting. This, because I had the same thing. Because usually people talk about Man from Deep River, Cannibal, and then they talk about the Lenzi Deodato feud and Cannibal Holocaust and Eaten Alive and stuff like that, right? And they kind of forget about this one in the mix. But this one, you're quite right, comes quite early on. Like it's only Man from Deep River and Cannibal or Jungle Holocaust come before it, and then it's this one. And this one pretty much must have influenced Mountain of the Cannibal God, right? I think Mountain of the Cannibal God is like the toned down version of this. Although I need to go back and watch it, because just in terms of just proper filmmaking, I suspect Mountain of the Cannibal God is probably a better film, right? But just not as extreme.
I haven't seen it so long, I don't remember.
Yeah. So,
but yes, she goes to meet Tinty, who's playing Mark Lester, who works for some sort of natural history museum, right? And he's he
went, between being a child actor and going on to direct Firestarter, he worked as an expert for a while
in
on ancient cannibal tribes.
Yep.
And he's very non-specific for
an academic.
Yeah, because he's like, oh, let me show you these cannibals in Africa. And she has to say, no, I'm not interested in Africa. I mean, and he's almost like, they're all the same, like.
Yes, yeah, and also I did notice she doesn't get too upset about the footage he shows her, but I can only assume this is taking place after she's already seen extended snuff films in
Well, no, this footage,
Emanuelle in America.
This footage turns up in Porno Nights of the World.
It does also, yes, you're right.
In fact, it's much more disturbing in Porno Nights of the World because it's in color. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm assuming it was shot for this, though, because it seems like a weird thing to have shot for Porno Nights of
the Mondo thing, yeah.
Sorry, did forget one bit. Oh no, yeah, it does come in exactly here, right? So they decide, okay, we're going to go on an expedition.
Yeah.
And obviously, Lord of Gemsa's Emanuelle thinks, oh, I'm going to be, in the jungles for a while. I'm going to miss the creature comforts of New York City. So I'm going to treat myself to being fucked on a slimy, old, abandoned pier, like
shitty beach
on the East River or something.
Yeah, that's.
I won't be enjoying these creature comforts for a while.
It looks cold.
It looks horrible. Of all the places they could have gone.
Yes, and they can't have had any kind of permits for that shoot either, right? That had to have been like Joey in a van being like, "Fucking do it fast." But again, it's all very soft on demand, as you point out. I wonder the extent to which, how much of Japanese pornography is entirely Joe D'Amato based, if he is the DNA.
I would agree with you if I knew what you were talking about, but I don't.
Oh, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, no, it's like, because eventually when they do go off to the Amazon, it's Lazio in Italy, right? Which is so. I think they were in more danger going to this fucking abandoned old pier.
Yes, yeah, and then when we get to our cannibal tribe, they're entirely made of like Filipino road workers, basically in Ramon's wigs.
Yeah, they were picked up at the airport, apparently, right?
Right. Yeah, but we'll get to that when we get to them. So yes, yeah, they go to the Amazon, which apparently is in Italy.
Yes, you get some stock footage of like the Orinoco or something, or and some crocodiles. So to be honest, it's not a bad little. I don't think it jumped out at me until I looked it up. I wasn't like, hang on, I know that tree. That's in Italy,
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Not as bad as Cannibal Terror, that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, the Cannibal Terror is like, yeah, I think that's probably about as bad a cannibal film as you can get, isn't it? That
Don't
and what's the other one? Cannibal Terror and its
Black Cannibal
companion.
Queen is
Say again.
Black Cannibal Queen, is it?
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I know it under a different title, but I'm blanking on. Yeah, it doesn't matter. We'll talk about them one day, maybe. Yes, so it's off to the Amazon, and they decide to go to a mission, right? So they also pick up Isabel,
Yep.
played by Monica Zanchi,
Mm-hmm.
who was the same year as this, was in Sister Emanuelle with Laura Gemser.
Okay.
And apparently was also a zombie in Zombie Flesh Eaters. So
Okay.
look
Interesting.
out for her next time you watch Zombie Flesh Eaters. And the sister Angela, right, as played by Anna Maria Clementi.
Yeah, sister meaning nun in this case.
Yes.
Yeah, because it is a mission. And there's a Father Morales apparently who is an expert on savages.
That's right.
So
Anna Maria Clementi will return in. She's the star of Pleasure Shop on 7th Avenue. We'll be getting to next time, I think. Yes. So and of course, impotent white hunter, Donald O'Brien.
Oh, yes. Always happy to see Donald. Also, there's a chimp in this that smokes a lot of cigarettes, which is always great to see. Always heartwarming to see an animal subjected to
the cocktails. Well, what's awesome about it, just to give you I think this kind of sums up this film's aesthetic, right? Is it's lesbian groping in a pool intercut with a chimpanzee smoking a cigarette. It's a smorgasbord of entertainment for if you don't like tits, here's a monkey. If you don't like monkey, here's some tits. Neves Navarro, right, plays she's the horny wife, Donald's wife.
Oh yes.
Who's getting some from their native guide.
Yes, that scene's kind of great actually, and then just all the scenes of Donald O'Brien kind of creeping around and like he's like some sort of like cuckolded impotent David Bellamy, kind of like through like the undergrowth and like staring at his wife banging various
I believe he did actually study David Bellamy yes. Yes, and of course inevitably cannibals do turn up.
It's very kind of like that point of view stuff from later like slasher films. I think that was getting really kind of Friday the 13th vibe from all that heavy breathing and like it was. I think it seemed a bit early for that.
So a nipple is sliced off, chest split open. Navarro gets a knife straight in the miv and sliced up. Donald gets sliced in half with a wire. Tug of war.
The physics of that are a bit suspect, and as is the pre-digital effect of his like.
It's still better than Cannibal Ferox.
Yes.
Yeah. But this time watching, I do have to admit it's Al Yamanuchi turns up as well as a guide, doesn't he? One of his earliest roles. He's in there. But I have to say it's quite sluggish, isn't it? This one actually, I'm watching it this time. I remember this moving along at a better clip before, but it's kind of sluggish, which is why it made me think I need to rewatch Mount of the Cannibal God just to kind of, because Mount of the Cannibal God always gets short shrift because it's the less extreme, even though it does have animal cruelty and stuff. It's the one that's like, that's for the kids. That's the kids' cannibal. That's Disney's cannibal. But it makes me want to watch it again because it might actually shift a bit better than this one. And it's got Stacey Keachin and stuff. So I think that's, and Ursula Andress as well, right? I think Mount of the Cannibal God. So definitely worth rewatching that to compare it, because this one Yeah, it's a long trek between gore scenes for me. I don't know. How did you both feel about? Did you get on with this one? Because I'm assuming we've all seen this before. But Gav, take it away.
As you say, it's sort of that real like middle part, is, very sluggish. Lots of walking around the jungle and
Yeah,
not much going on. Yeah, it sort of seems like he's sort of goodbye to sort of the Emanuelle film, sort of hello to the extreme gore that sort of films like any on the video sort of thing.
yeah. It almost doesn't really feel like a proper Black Emanuelle film, does it? It's
He's a sideliner towards the end. Yeah.
yeah. Nick, thoughts?
Well, it's actually I hadn't seen it before, so it was.
Oh, okay.
It was,
You might have enjoyed it a bit more then.
It was new to me, and yeah, I mean, but I will say yes. There are some of my notes are like, oh, it's another 5 minutes of people walking, like so. Yeah, it definitely there are pacing issues. But it was okay. It was for me. It was entertaining enough, maybe because it was a first watch.
Yeah, I think the first time you see the smoking chimp intercut with lesbian groping, it's a it's a transitional time in man's life. So
right.
Fabrizio De Angelis did the effects as well. Apparently, he was a production manager on this as well, and effects are not bad.
Yeah.
Again, Nico Fidenko. Some really nice cues in this one. A lot of them you can't really hear, so it's worth getting the soundtrack to this one because there's some nice bits and pieces. Kind of slightly Shirley Bassey like main theme
Yes.
as well, right?
Yes. Yeah, I got James Bond kind of off of that.
Manuel and Las Cannibals. It's not that, but
No.
it almost could be.
Yeah, it's funny. The ending is also kind of bizarre. I mean, a lot of these films have this thing where something really traumatic happens to either to Emanuelle or to someone close to Emanuelle, and then as soon as it's over, it's like everyone's got some sort of selective amnesia, or like PTSD does not exist in their world. I mean, oh, that's finished. So at the end of this one, they all take off in the boat at the end after escaping, and they kind of remount that scene from Man from Deep River, the kind of except this time it's the white girl is tied down, and then the entire tribe kind of has her one after another, right?
Yes, which later turns out been eaten alive, right?
Yeah. It's one of those tropes that shows up, but the first time I think I saw it chronologically would have been in Man from Deep River.
I think the perfect ending would have been if Emanuelle had whipped out a corn cob pipe and wondered who the real cannibals were.
But I feel like
before the theme tune comes in, let's take a picture of cannibal. No lighting needed to take a picture of cannibal.
But there is a kind of a moment at the end where Emanuelle does this kind of little thing where she's like, oh, like she does say that, like, who, these people are exploited and they're, it's not their fault kind of thing. And then Gabrielle Tinty, who is playing an academic in a tweed kind of jacket, goes, it isn't our fault. It's the price of civilization.
Yes. Yeah, oh, that's all right then.
The end. It's like, hand wave away any questions the audience has or concerns.
When we get home, let me show you another video.
Exactly. My collection of cannibal penis eating films. But always a good thing to pull out right away when you meet a lady.
You do actually get more of that scene as this as well, because you get the guy like picking away at the head and eating the eyes and stuff. That's not in
yes. I do think having it kind of processed and looking more muddy makes it more convincing. I think it's quite a bit less convincing when it shows up in the monster.
It's more shocking in the context. Well, are we ready to get there then? Are we anything more on Last Cannibals?
Well, I did find out he played for 6 weeks on 42nd Street in 1984 at the Liberty Theatre. It seems to have been like the film they followed on from Make Them Die Slowly. That sort of played for many weeks before, and he sort of substituted it for this.
Yeah, I think it was Trap Them and Kill Them, right, in the US.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, no, I think this would have been I would imagine this would have been a 40 seconds. I think it turns up in that chapter in the when we all read
Oh, right.
Freezide Express, right?
Yeah, but I don't think Bill was that much of a fan of it. Grabbed on Joe's solo film. So.
Yeah.
But it seems to have ran quite a bit of 40 seconds. It obviously did something right.
Yeah, no, it is one of those ones as well. I remember first, because it's not an official nasty. Yeah, I remember reading about this one for the first time in Dark Side magazine, I think. Because I think that's the thing people forget about Dark Side magazine. I mean, even though, you know, Alan Bryce can be a bit of a problematic person, and yeah, in some ways but it is it's a newsstand. I don't know what it's like now, but it's a newsstand magazine that you could pick up as a kid, and it had, you know, I remember picking up an issue back in the 90s, and there was a whole like pages and pages article on Bruno Mattei, you know, which is, you know, kind of, yeah, a lot of stuff got sneaked through in the Dark Side. Yeah, and I remember reading about Emanuelle and the Last Cannibals there. Yeah, and that's, yeah, reading Dark Side would have been the first time I think I would have realized as well. Oh, hang on, there's beyond the nasties list, you know, there's more of these. You know? There's a whole lot more.
Right. Stuff that was so outrageous that it wouldn't have even been attempted to be passed, right? Wouldn't have been submitted.
Yeah. Or got taken, you know, taken off the shelves and not bothered to resubmit it or whatever. But yeah, it was just, for a while there, it was those video nasty titles, and you thought, well, that's, you know, as a kid, and then, oh, hang on, you look behind the curtain and there's a whole world. One day I shall do an entire year's worth of YouTube videos about Joe D'Amato. That's it's a life well spent, I think we'll agree. Right.
Okay, so we're into to me, this makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense that these films evolve or devolve, whatever you want to say, into what's about to come, right? Because in a way, the Emanuelle films increasingly become a series of like standalone episodic kind of like, there's a very loose overarching plot maybe, and then it's kind of a series of standalone sex scenes, right? And in this case, it makes sense that they were going to go fully into this. Like, okay, that's all this is going to be now. We're going to do like a fake Mondo. That makes sense?
Yeah, no. I don't know. Well, this also seems to be in the tradition of those films from like the 60s that came. Well, there's a few of them before, but they come after Mondo Carne as well, which are like the sexy versions where it's like strip acts and stuff around the world. There's a whole bunch of them, right? There's that one, Sexy Probidissimo, and then there's like Japanese ones as well, and there's the kind of quite tame strip acts from around the world. And this seems to be, I mean, for some people we may be splitting hairs here, but this seems to be like that tradition, but they've re-imported some of the more extreme Mondo stuff, and as well, credit where credit is due, and also footage where footage is due. So a lot of this stuff comes from Erwin C. Dietrich, right?
Yeah.
And so, he was already, I think, even before this, he'd put out a few things which were very similarly just episodic excuses for tits on screen. It was either it was a club act or like, and also there's the, I suppose, very similar, the German Schoolgirl Report TVs and Housewife Report and fucking Cement Mixer's Wife Report, all those report films, right? I might
quite like Cement Mixer's Wife.
I might have made that last one up, but if I didn't, I want to see that. That sounds awesome. Yeah, but yeah, you're quite right. It's it's so it's a bit confusing. So first up, we should mention this. This is primarily, apparently, it's a Bruno Mattei film more than it is a Joe D'Amato film, right?
Right.
But Joe D'Amato did work on it. And so the setup is, yeah, Laura Gemser, our on-screen narrator, host, smiling a lot, very smiley.
Mhm. Yep.
As she introduces, I guess, nightclub acts from around the world, right? I suppose. Porno nights of the world, in fact, or AKA Sexy Night Report, which I quite like as a title.
Yeah. So it's pretty much just her hanging out. We're supposed to assume in her apartment, just talking to us. And it's also interesting because it opens up. It's the only one that does. It opens up with a little menu of like what you're going to see. So in the opening credits, it kind of shows you a title for each of the various segments.
Yes.
The other ones don't do that, but this one's like, this is, so that you know what you're getting into here.
Yeah, so you can keep track if you're drinking as much Cutty Sack as Laura is.
Right.
You get lost. Yes, so we start in Hamburg, where Marina Hedman, who's in a few of these films today we were talking about, she's has a kind of African-themed strip act until a man in a rather large gorilla suit turns up. This is, I love this. I would, if there was a club near me offering this stage act, I would go and see this nightly, I think.
There was a couple in like in the 60s in London who had this sort of act. Desiree and Pierre, I think they were called, and she would like strip on stage, and then he'd come on dressed as a gorilla, and like you mentioned that, take it over a show and stuff like that. There was like an 8mm glamour film made of that as well.
All right.
In the piece. So, yeah.
See, that's entertainment, that is.
Awesome.
So we should mention as well, this is one of the few scenes that's actually unique and made for this film, right? And as well, I like you were saying earlier, it blurs together a bit, Gav, but I mean, clearly the same nightclub set has been used for multiple of these different places around the world, both in this and Crazy Nights and the sequel to this, right? But so yeah, I think we'll go through it like this, and then when we know, raise your hand and we'll know where something came from. So we'll all be familiar with, I should mention this gorilla suit bit as well. Not only is it good fun, the act, there's some brilliant insert shots of leering spectators in this. Not spectators, leering audience members, like like a creepy old and another guy like sweating and like it's really sell it.
There's quite a lot that shows up a lot, and I really have some questions about some of these later films about whether the people filmed for audience reaction shots had any idea what they were going to be intercut with, because I'd be kind of upset if I had gone to see one of these and was like, hang on,
that's me.
I wasn't watching somebody off.
I was watching Jimmy Cricket.
Exactly.
And apparently now I'm watching someone hump a camel or something.
Anyway,
I think we all recognize the next scene, right? In
is it Black Cobra or is it
it's
Black Cobra?
Yes, it's the scene in a club in Hong Kong with sorry, I just got a text from the wife who's just left the house to inform us that we have snow here in Tokyo.
Oh, congrats.
Thank you very much. We did have it earlier this year as well, actually.
But March, it's funny. March is pretty late for snow.
Yeah, the cherry blossoms aren't out yet properly.
Okay. So this scene we've seen before, and this is the scene that I believe I held up my notebook because it said the word "yowza" written in capital letters. So I was happy enough to watch that scene again.
Sorry, can I just stop to just say, you get your money's worth from this YouTube video. You get incisive Joe D'Amato breakdowns and weather reports. I mean,
For very specific
Yeah.
locations
Yeah.
on the planet. I can let you know it's quite windy here in Prince Edward Island.
how's the weather there, Gav?
Raining is the usual. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Excellent.
Especially on a
This
windy.
this is value for money, man. Yes, so it's the lesbian club in Hong Kong, isn't it? From Black Cobra. Then a dog licks a woman's pussy on stage.
Yes.
Just saying, that is what happens. I mean,
That is what happens.
there's
You're
no
right.
way around it.
Yep.
I'm
That scene is
guessing
called
she has
The Beast in
tasty-
Heat.
Huh?
Not that scene is called The Beast in Heat, not to be I guess confused with
There's no
other-
pubic hair eating,
No.
unfortunately. Yeah, she must
Well,
have
actually,
tasty-
there might have been. I mean, I would
Yes,
have to ask
I'm
the
sure,
dog,
I'm
I
sure
guess.
the dog got a few between his teeth. There's a tasty treat in there somewhere, I think. I mean, that must you must think about getting out of the business if you're watching pedigree chum out of your snatch night.
Oh, sweet Jesus. All right. Can we move on to Love in a Shop Window then?
Yes. So this is footage from Erwin C. Dietrich's Pin-Up Playmates.
Okay, that's
Claudia Fidesz, right? She's the chick. It's kind of like the Amsterdam shop window thing, except one step further.
I like that it's just a curtain, by the way. There's nothing to stop you. It's just the one bloke, she's like, come in.
There's
He's like,
there's no
good.
curtain
It's close to
to
the
the ones in
curtain.
Amsterdam even. There's nothing. It's just if you go to the red light district have you been there, Gav? Have you been to the one in Amsterdam?
Yeah. Been to Amsterdam, I don't know about that. It's been a long time.
But the setup they've got there is really strange, because I remember going there and so it's the windows are kind of lit, so the front, like right in front of the glass, is well lit, but the further back you go, it's just pitch black, right? And it's very unsexy, because you go up there in the window and you're kind of looking in at night, and all of a sudden, like someone comes up to the window like a naked zombie, and you're like, ah, like.
Although I do find what I like to do is go in a particularly shabby Santa costume and stand at the glass.
Yes. Would you like to touch me? Yes, I would. But yes, what I really like about this scene is there's a bunch of leering dudes like enjoying her, and there's one guy's wife, right, grumpy wife,
Yes.
who keeps putting her hand in front of his eyes, and
Yes.
she's getting really annoyed.
Yep.
That was funny.
There's a credit on this scene that says "Pop Music by Middle of the Road," which is a great name for your band.
Yes.
Very inspiring.
Yes. That's not going to it'll inspire bad reviews, certainly, right?
Yeah.
And then, yes, and then I think
yes, there has to have been bruises from this next scene. This is Passion on Wheels, where
again from Pin-Up Playmates. This is another Erwin C.
scene. It feels all of a piece, yes, but this is where apparently it's a fat farm / knocking shop. And but the way you lose weight there is to roller skate around naked and fall on your ass a lot.
All over and crush your dick. This scene actually had me laughing out loud.
Me too.
I had seen it before, but it was still funny.
Yeah, I was thinking that had to have been comfortable. That he must have actually been hurting himself.
Then we've got Mandrake and his amazing disappearing and reappearing cock.
Yes, yes. Not terribly convincing as a prosthetic.
I just like that some woman touches it as well, just to make sure, right? That it just that's a lot of fun. And then we go over to India. We got some stock footage of India and some old Raja who can't get it up.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I don't know what all that was about.
Well, I think he's supposed to. So it's a fertility, right? He's supposed to bed 3 virgins, and then they'll be like, it's the next year's harvest or whatever it is, right? But he's too old and impotent, so now they've brought in a kind of
That's
a
right.
sub, and then but this sub has to be killed at the end of the scene because the people can't know that the Raj is too old to do this. And it's kind of grisly because like first of all we do get like I'm not wrong, we get bloody vaginas in this, right? I believe because they're virgins.
I am assuming you mean bloodied vaginas, not you've had enough of vaginas.
Yeah.
Bloody vaginas.
Yes. Yeah, and then he's got a terrifying scar all down his back, which I couldn't help notice. That looks like a proper like somebody dragged a knife, and I don't think it's makeup. I think that's just whoever that dude is. But yeah. Anyway, and then he gets offed at the end of the scene.
Then we're on to a masked wrestler bit. Turns into some mud wrestling. With some Jack Frost song, which I quite enjoyed on the sound.
That song's great.
Yes, we should mention as well that the music is all over the fucking place. You got the theme from Emanuelle's Revenge at some point. And yeah, just lots of. I'm assuming it's library music, right? But some of it's pretty great.
Garage rock, and
I would listen to like a compilation of Porno Nights of the World.
All four of these.
That's what I call Porno Nights of the World.
Yeah, no, I would love to have like a best of. There's great music in all of them. But yeah, then what? So what are we into then? Oh yeah, so then this is the mud. Yeah, this is the mud wrestler guy who looks like he's wearing an El Santo.
Yeah.
Costume as well, which is confusing. But it's not as filthy and unpleasant as the mud wrestling scene that shows up in one of the other ones.
Because it's short. That other one goes on for fucking ever.
Yes.
Bloody vaginas. So then we're off to a scene from.
This has to be another Dietrich film, right?
Well, interestingly, made for Erwin Dietrich by none other than Jess Franco.
Oh.
Yeah, this is a scene from Around the World in 80 Beds, which is a good title. And yeah, this is with Esther Moser, right, as the fetching teacher of a Amsterdam sex school.
With the least attractive looking inflatable doll I have ever. It looks like his neck is broken. It's like that thing gave me the.
Really? Were you not chomping at the bit to get in there?
No, I was not.
We're young enough. We're lucky. We grew up with, I know that sounds dodgy. We grew up with realistic sex dolls, but back in the day,
I went to school with one. I had one of my best friends was a realistic sex doll when I was in elementary school.
Imaginary sex doll. Yes, I would like to go to the McDonald's. No, this is fun. This is funny, and there's a penis pump. This scene is longer in Around the World in 80 Beds, and there's a mincing homosexual character in there for extra comic relief. And I think as well, I haven't seen it for a while, but this scene might have turned up again in Bruno Mattei's Libidomania, which is a similar compilation of sex stuff. Which I remember being, obviously when we do all the Bruno Mattei films, we'll be getting to that.
Jesus Christ.
Yes, so there's that. And then Miss Lollipop, the sex witch. I mean, some of this is not very interesting. Then there's more footage from another Erwin Dietrich film. Penthouse Playgirls is the Berlin Breast Parade.
Yes, yeah.
If I remember in the original version, I think a girl from Manchester wins.
Okay.
Like that. I think, if I remember correctly.
That makes sense, because the announcer looks a lot like some sort of Benny Hill clone, like the German Benny Hill, who does a lot of dabbing his forehead and kind of grim.
It's German here, but it's English dubbed in Penthouse Playgirls. And I think Penthouse Playgirls, if I remember, the plot was they have this talent show at the beginning, and then all the girls end up being shipped around the world. They've been tricked into whites. It's been a while since I saw it. And then yes, then we get to see the totally out of nowhere the castration and decapitation scene from
Yes,
Last Cannibals. I mean, properly, what the fuck has this got to do with anything? Everything else is vaguely sexual, including pedigree chum up the cunt. But I mean, this is, yeah, a pretty tenuous link, right, to anything sexual.
yeah. And there's a lot more. It's funny. There's a lot more of it, like, than there is in that, because we get scenes of like this, scenes of the cameraman filming.
Yes,
like it's all very weird.
Yeah, but it is. To be fair, it's genuinely shocking. I didn't expect that to happen in the middle of this film.
True, and then the dialogue is like both risible and extremely racist, because there's a line where Laura says like animals in the savannah, they seem to sense our presence. That's nice. Yeah, that's very, very very classy. And yes, and then but we see the full. I don't remember seeing the full decapitation on the side.
It was, but it was very brief.
Okay, and it's not in color, so maybe it didn't make the same impression. But then it's more obviously fakey looking here because they haven't muddied it up.
Right. Then it's over to Holland to see the taxi mothers.
Yeah, that's just grim.
Yeah, grim, but also one of the girls is quite hot. So it's like a weird mixture of grim and quite sexy. If you remember one of the girls, the one with pigtails, who's going down on that particularly sketchy looking old dude. That's quite hot, that scene, and depressing. So
it's quite a melange of feelings there.
Yeah. And then
fucking Omar, the sex king.
Yeah, which is, I think, from if you don't stop it, you'll go blind. Right? I think this scene is from.
Okay. So it's fascinating because they announced at the beginning that this is taking place in England, right? That this section of them, and it's so clearly not. There's like a baseball umpire there, and none of the voices sound in any way British. Like it's just.
And was she Dygard?
Yes.
Which is what gave it away that it's from If You Don't Stop It, You'll Go Blind, which I can't remember is either a sequel. Which one? There's Can I Do It Till I Need Glasses, and then there's If You Don't Stop It, You'll Go Blind, but I can't remember which way around. Gav, you might know this. Oh, okay. What's next? So that is the Bangkok barber.
I do think we should come back to Omar for a second, because Omar will return with that, well, at least under that name, but not the same person.
No, it's not the same Omar at all.
No, but the whole concept is Omar is going to bed like 30 women, or well, maybe more than that, right? On like a 4-poster bed kind of a thing in front of a huge audience of screaming Beatlemania fan women.
They love Omar. Yeah,
right.
Although they're fickle. They're fickle.
Oh, they are.
I mean,
they are.
He starts to flag a little bit, and they're like, "Boo!" Boo!
Quite terrifying, actually. And so, but I love at the end the scorecard, because like I guess the idea is like what is it, like Omar 30, women 0. And they
use the male and female symbols as well. It's a nice touch. This reminded me of the scene of Harry Reams in Erotic Dr. Jekyll. I think there's a bit where. Is it in that where he has to fuck a whole bunch of women to find the best pussy in the world or something? It's like a competition. And then he's like, yay, I found it at some point. This is the best pussy in the world. And then we're back to Mandrake again.
Yep.
I can't even remember what the fuck he did. Oh, that's right. This scene is quite good. This scene is funny. This is a scene where they pick out a bunch of different guys' wives.
Yes, it's completely a soft on demand.
Yes, it is.
It's very
Once
much.
Again, I don't know what you're talking about. Soft.
I know
what, but I totally agree with you. Yes.
Yes, it's a bunch of bum glory holes. Basically, these wives put their buttocks through, and then they're supposed to try to figure out if it's their own wife or not
by shoving their cock in their ass.
Yes.
And hoping they don't come out with some dog food on the end of their dick.
Yes.
And
Um,
then we go over to the United Arab Emirates, but I
Yep.
can't remember what for.
Oh, that's like bizarre mind fuck where like they isn't even like he's licking the air near her nipples and then humping the air near her vagina. It's a very weird. It reminded me of like in Japanese comics when they would kind of show people having sex but not show anything, like
Right,
you know,
yeah.
like invisible dick kind of a thing. Like it's.
And then we get quite a long bit of footage of a street carnival in Brazil.
Yep.
And
I just said my note there says, "Why am I watching a samba scene that feels like it came from a '60s James Bond film?"
Right. But fear not, because Miss Butterfly is up next.
Oh wait, hang on. Is Miss Butterfly the chicken blood bukkake?
Oh no, I think that's the Macumba scene in the Brazil.
Okay, that follows the yeah, because we go
Yes.
from carnival to like a chicken having its head chopped off
Right.
and sprayed all over a woman thrashing around.
And then Miss Butterfly, who dances, and she puts ping pong balls up her snatch, and you think she's going to do the popping them out again thing, which is in the other film. She doesn't. She just leaves them there and dances about a bit. It seems like okay, fair enough. That's obviously that was an act in the progress of being perfected, right? That's
right.
The early prototype. I'm going to put some ping pong balls. People will love that. And then someone else figured out, hang on, why don't we shoot them out? Yeah.
Yes. I also like that Laura Gemser mentions that this is a big act from her country in the Orient.
That's right.
Whatever country that might be.
And then at the very end, there's like quite an elaborate for this film. It must have been stolen from somewhere, but I don't know. There's like this whole stage musical number with ladders and dances.
Is that not Japanese? I thought that given the footage of the signage right before they cut to that's supposed to be Sendai, and it's supposed to be.
Is that the Sendai bit?
Sendai, the erotic ball. Yeah, I think that's what
that could be, because there were some of those strip dance mondo documentary things out of Japan in the late 60s, and it looks older as well, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, it looks like early 60s or mid 60s to me.
And then Laura Gemser
has some J&B, I think.
No, Cutty Sark.
Cutty Sark. Oh yes.
Cutty Sark for a change.
There's J&B there though.
Yeah, and of course there's J&B there, and she bemoans the old values that are being lost.
Yes.
What a load of fun this was. I mean, this was a crackerjack collection of the very finest in human entertainment.
I enjoyed
it.
I have a soft spot for all of these for different reasons. I found them in some ways easier to deal with because
don't put any dog food in that soft spot.
No, I could completely suspend my brain and just sit and just let the filth wash over me. And I had quite a bit of fun with this, and to differing degrees, all four of these.
Gav, how did this stack up next to Ladies Doctor for you?
Well, it's much better than Lady Doctor. I think anything.
Put it on the poster. Better than Ladies Doctor. Gav Crimson. We all seem to have had fun with this one then.
Oh yeah. No, this was good stuff.
Okay. Right. So one more dip into the Emanuelle well then.
Okay, is this white slave
trade? Yeah.
Okay.
78. Again, written by Romano Scanriato, co-written. Well, it's kind of the last. So then in the 80s, Bruno Mattei makes a couple of films, right? Blade Violent and Women's Prison Massacre, which seem to have Laura Gemser reprising her Emanuelle role, but she's now in prison. It's been a while since I saw it, but I don't know if they really count as proper Emanuelle films, do they? I think that's a bit of a cheat. So yeah, to all purposes, this is the last of the Black Emanuelle
Official.
series, really, I think. Anyone want to have a go at the plot synopsis?
Gav, you have a crack at it there.
I just want this. So yes, one where she's in Kenya.
Or is it Nairobi?
Is it? Okay. Hang on. So yeah, I'm some sort of trying to interview a gangster or something, and he's hiding out in the countryside. Or
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
that's about much of a spot something they can give.
Yeah, she teams up with Eli Galliani, right? And yeah, she's trying to get pictures of Tino Venantini's richest man in the world or something.
Yeah, he's an Italian gangster who's yeah, for whatever reason.
And they managed to finagle their way in, and they go on he's got his own national park safari, it seems, including
which they fucking hot air balloon. I was thinking to myself, Clive and I read a book about the history of hot air ballooning, and all I could think was that's the last place I want a hot air balloon is over a safari park full of lions. That seems like a but given how much problems there tend to be with hot air balloons as a mode of transport.
Yes.
Like,
You watch, give me another 10 years, Nick, and I'll have a false memory of being in a hot air balloon over a safari. Yes. No. Like Gav said, it's a load of bollocks, really, until she, gets into the white slave trade thing via Gabrielle Tinti once again. And,
yes.
We see an auction, which to me, I mean, that seems like a very unclandestine auction.
Yeah.
Like they have it in some kind of, is it like
Holiday
a hotel or something?
Yeah, it seems like some kind of There's
like anyone could walk in. Oh, sorry, you're having a.
I thought this was conference room 7.
Yeah.
Is this the meeting for IBM?
I think I'll stay here. Because again, there's a couple of cute girls on sale here. The Virgin Orphan looked all right.
The one's from Canada, which surprised me. I was like, ooh. Yes.
Yes. So then she ends up basically at a brothel, right? With a dude in drag called Steve.
Yep.
Who kind of enforces the place, I guess. And yeah, this trundles along with, it's like, we've kind of seen all this before. It's not that interesting. And then just before the end, someone gets their face caved in with a bowling pin.
Yep.
And Laura Gemser gets gang raped.
And almost gets a full frontal lobotomy.
Yes. And you're like, what? What are you doing now, film? But it's all right. Because she ends up on a boat full of fishermen, and
a consensual gangbang happens.
I can pay, yeah. Yes, I don't know. This one feels a little bit. I don't know. It feels a little bit like they're going back to the well one too many times, right?
Yes.
Like, at least Last Cannibals was a bit different.
That was different, and then white slave trade as well had. Sorry, this is white slaves. The other one, the one that has white slave trade stuff in it.
Around the world,
yeah, which was also definitely darker, edgier, meaner. This one's a little bit lighter, I guess.
It's sort of middle of the road one. I think this one might be like the one that has appealed to like the people like the Sylvia Christel Emanuelle film.
Yes. Yeah.
It doesn't too freaky or outrageous.
No, until the end, a little Joe D'Amato couldn't resist a little bit there, like, this is a little bit boring, huh? How about we cave in someone's face with a bowling pin? That said, though, going back to the music again, this does have one of the theme tune. Run, cheetah, run. That breathy kind of, that's a hell of a tune.
Yeah.
I did like the theme tune to this one. That was cool. But
this
otherwise, it's quite forgettable, really.
one of two movies that feature people driving past the Kentucky Fried Movie marquee somewhere in New York. I don't know. I assume it's just the same shot that's in both films, but it was weird to think about
You
that,
cynic!
that
You
being out
cynic,
of.
Nick.
It's just funny to think of that being out in cinemas at the same time as they're filming this.
Right. Oh, I just realized it's even part of your name. You're the cynic.
There you go.
Yeah, no, I'm struggling to remember much about this, really. Oh, Tom Feleggi's in it as a senator he who visits the brothel. He's a familiar face from Italian exploitation. And yeah, I think that's about me done on this.
The only thing I'll say is if like it's in light of Jeffrey Epstein and whatever Ghislaine Maxwell, all that stuff. It's kind of it's interesting that like the world has kind of showed us that this is maybe more real than people might have thought in the 70s. You know, they might have thought, oh, this is pretty out there, this is pretty extreme, but in actual fact, very wealthy people and this kind of scumbaggery is actually a real thing. Right?
I think it's time for Emanuelle to come back out of retirement and do a Jeffrey Epstein style.
Yeah, like Prince. What the Prince? Like,
yeah,
she should be going after the royal family at this point. Surely.
Isn't there a film coming out? Isn't there a film coming out to Netflix soon with what's her name from X-Files is in it, and it's about that. It's called Scoop, and it's about the Prince William. No, which
Prince
Prince?
Andrew?
Yeah, Prince Andrew. And Prince Andrew's played by someone as well, like notable. Rufus Sewell.
Okay.
Plays. Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah, let's get back to the fake Mondos. They're far more interesting.
Yes, it's time for some crazy nights.
This is interesting for a variety of reasons, because this is the one that ends with a lawsuit, right? Supposedly, Amanda Lear taking the D'Amato to court because this is not the film that she thought she was appearing in.
So, what before we get started with, did either of you actually know Amanda Lear? Because I didn't. I was watching this film and I was like, well, clearly this woman is someone.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know anything about, and I looked her up, and then it turns out she was pretty. Were either of you already familiar with Amanda Lear?
I knew the album cover, like their rocks. She's on the front cover of that Roxy Music album.
Yes, because she went out with Brian Ferry for a while, right?
Yeah, and also she was a girlfriend of David Bowie's for a while, and then so yeah, I was vaguely aware of her. I didn't know she was Salvador Dali's muse for like the last 10 years of his life, basically.
And there's some question as to whether, as to her gender.
I don't think it's really a question. I think it's pretty much a fact. Okay. So it's interesting that there's then that two of these films feature like a transgendered woman, right, as our whatever spokesperson or narrator, and that's
spokesperson.
Yes, spokesperson for pornography and
right.
For
right.
Yes.
Our ambassador of filth.
But the thing about this one is, it feels to me like she thought that this was supposed to be some sort of comedy film thing about, because like she sings two of her songs, right? It was going to be like, she thought it was a musical comedy film she was involved in, and then had no idea she was apparently linking segments to there's some pretty sketchy shit that goes down in this one, right?
Yes.
And then clearly the dubbing is not obviously what it's not her, right? It's a very stock giallo woman voice, like it's one you've heard a million times before, the woman doing her narration.
Also the music is notable as well, because I thought that, because she does that kind of spoken singing thing, and even though obviously we're in the disco era, it seemed to me a little bit more ahead of its time by a few years. Some of the I don't know, the combination of her speaking and the kind of disco into electronic stuff sounded a bit like Soft Cell or even Pet Shop Boys or stuff like that. I was kind of quite surprised.
I wondered if Giorgio Moroder released an album with Sparks the number one in heaven, and that album is the DNA or the template for almost all of that stuff, right? Those, so it's only 5 songs or something like that, but yeah, every one of those duo like keyboard and vocalist synth pop bands from England, all of them basically said, yeah, we were just doing our version of Sparks' number one in heaven. And I wondered if that was just in the air at the time, like that was kind of amongst.
It does kind of feel a little bit ahead of its time. So yeah, so once again, she introduces stuff, right, of varying quality. As far as I could tell, is most of this, so this is actually indigenous to this film, right? I think I didn't get a sense of it being stuff pinched from elsewhere this time, but I might be wrong. I didn't have much of a chance to go down the rabbit hole on this one.
Yeah,
and it all seems to be in that same, a lot of it's on the same nightclub set, so I'm guessing it was all. So what do we got here? We got Las Vegas. What happens there? Is this the one where someone's tricked into fucking a goat?
That happens, yeah, quite near the beginning of the film. I don't know if that's
right. Well, yes. That's all right, because it's worth getting to. I mean, we can skip over some of the less interesting things.
Yes, it's a glory hole where a girl gets up and then she puts her bum through the hole, and then a guy somehow a goat
doesn't realize a goat
her at some point.
Yeah.
Yes.
I tell you what,
wasn't it like an early stag film where there's like this guy with like talking to put his dick through a glory hole? And
yes.
Remember that? Yeah.
It's called something like Get His Goat or something like that, doesn't it? It's like
yes, I wonder if maybe Joe's paying tribute to these sort of stag film forefathers here.
Yeah, it could be. And it turned, it was one of those old smokers, right, where people tried to convince you that the goat was actually Marilyn Monroe or something. The goat did look pleased. A big smile on his face. So,
but it's funny because then they cut back to Amanda Lear, and the dubbing job seems to kind of intimate that like she's down with it. Like, and I think this is why she's fucking sued, because like,
well, also there's a lot of non sequiturs as well, right? There's like things like this is, but it'll cut back something like that, then she'll say, yes, I love bakeries or something like that, like
right.
There's some hooded black magic stuff, which is weird.
I loved this scene. I loved that. I've never seen it before. I mean, I've seen lots of stuff. I've seen lots of films, but that. So first of all, there's like a woman. She's like on a slab in some kind of medieval torture dungeon. A bunch of monks are there, and they're chanting what I originally thought they were saying, "Choose to sacrifice," but then it turns out to be "Choo sacrifice." It makes sense when they form the human centipede's train of bum love. Yeah, and it's just. And then when they all flip around, they all jump around so everyone can have a chance at,
Apparently, this is the black magic rite at which Thomas and the Tank Engine was conceived.
Right.
Yes. Although I didn't see a fat controller.
I'm sure he was in there.
Yes.
It would have been nice. It would have been nice if Ringo Starr had narrated that segment of the film.
Oh! Would you be taking me up the ass? Thomas. Here comes Dennis. So, in terms of just fucking shame, like couldn't be botheredness, this next sequence it takes a lot to get to beat. They make a big deal. We're going to Tokyo. I thought, here we go. This is going to be exciting. And they talk about the transistor. They talk a lot about transistors and how many transistors. And we go to the transistor club. And I'm thinking, oh, what's this going to be? and it turns out to just be a couple of white people
Mhm.
covered in scraps of paper who,
Yeah, newspaper.
who
Yeah.
bite the paper off each other and then dance about a bit. And then that's it.
Yes.
Not one transistor, not one Japanese person
In the audience, nor in the audience.
What the fuck is this?
Well, what it is you might remember when you were a kid and you'd have a birthday party and you'd play a game called Pass the Parcel, where your mom would have wrapped up something, you know, in a bunch of newspaper, and then you'd play music and you'd stop. And then I assume that's what this is trying to allude to.
Really? You got that out of it? I didn't.
I have no idea. It's just for some reason it struck me as this is the weirdest game of Pass the Parcel I've ever seen.
It's just okay. Fair enough. It's a bit of filler in. Fair enough. I can see that. But to go to the trouble of all this transistor club,
Japanese malarkey, yeah.
Yeah. Yes. No. Really sold a bill of goods on that one. But it's okay. Nothing lasts for too long here, so we're off to Brazil next. I can't remember what happens there.
Yeah, hang on, I've got some notes here. I did notice there's a lot of kind of like trans wink kind of humor in this as well, which is, well, in the dub. I don't know what Amanda Lear, because I don't think Amanda was kind of that comfortable with, you know, I mean, I think she always demurred when asked directly, the same as Ajita in the film we're going to talk about next. But anyway, but in this, like, there's the whole part where she's dressed in like a leopard print thing, and she says, you know, is it a girl dressed as a leopard or a leopard dressed as a girl? There's all of these kind of little sly nods and winks to, you know.
Amanda Lear has quite a likable personality in this
film,
yeah. I'd say.
Yes.
Very bright and breezy. Makes me sad to think she wasn't on board.
With being in this film, yes.
Yeah. And then there's like
surely, you know, Jo must have had a bit of a reputation by this point. I think she'd know what she's getting into.
That's true. Yeah, you think. Yeah, the Emanuelle, particularly in America, and yeah, like yeah. What are the chances of there being animal sex in this? You know, you'd have to. Yeah. Wait a second. Yeah, I just remember I have a note here that there's a great goblin-esque pounding song during. There's a girl kind of does a very thrashy dance thing.
That might be the Transistor Club, because they get quite worked up after they get all the paper off them.
No, I think it was after that. But anyway, okay. And then
we shan't argue about it.
No. Then there's a.
This was in an earlier scene.
There's a gangster mall dance, which goes on way too long.
Yeah,
and then we have fucking Mandrake back again, and now he's doing his sex change operation, but with like one of those illusion booth things.
That Mandrake, he's he had a hell of a routine, didn't he? Yes, one wonders what else was in his repertoire.
How many other ways could he swap genitals?
Oh no, hang on. Doesn't he turn up? Actually, doesn't he? Is it in this one or is it the next film? Anyway, there's some more magic based pulling things out of stuff.
Oh yeah, that's not him. That's that fucking little guy. Looks like he's escaped from Troll 2.
That's right. It's in the next one, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. It's one of the few highlights of the next one, I think, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this one you have some boring Swan Lake thing. Well, it is boring until they bring a goat on. Is it a goat or as a dog? I can't remember. Hang on, or is this in the next? I think
it might be in the next. I think because what I've written down here is we get the S&M Masochist Dudes Club. Guys getting whipped by a dominatrix.
Oh yeah,
cut with blades.
Right. Yeah, sorry, this is a different Swan.
Squeezing lemon juice into like a guy's cuts. It's like it's yeah.
And then there's the we go to Berlin for something. Oh yeah, that's the whipping. Oh yeah. There's the guy who gets his dick nailed with a hammer.
Yes, yeah, like some kind of early version of sounding, it seemed to me, maybe. And then there's an ancient, horrible old fucker like chained down to a slab. It looks like the Crypt Keeper or something like that. In that segment.
Yeah, that's it. This is the secret club in Berlin, which doesn't
Yes.
seem that secret.
What's
That's
that?
like
Oh,
the reporter. That's what I remember. She's like, she's making a big deal about, I was surreptitiously hiding and doing a report on the club in Berlin, right? And all this. And you think, oh, she's going to be there with one of Emanuelle's dolls or something. No.
mhm.
And then cut to her with a huge microphone. So, what are you doing? Oh, they're not going to take long to run. It's like if you've ever seen those Nick Broomfield documentaries, you know, when he walks around with huge headphones on and like a boom mic and trying to interview people, and yeah, it's just ridiculous. That was quite funny.
And then there's the whole like the necrophilia role play place, right? That all carries on from that, right? Where there's the departed husband getting sucked off by his grieving wife, and
then there's the bit where they visit a Danish couple who do hardcore, right? And
yes,
they watch a video together. And
I loved that guy
Yes.
constantly grinning at the camera, like kind of like looking like, oh, a little shy, but then like...
I wrote shy Marty Feldman with a normal thyroid. Like, he looked really nice. I wanted to make friends with him. He looked really lovely.
He seemed so alternately kind of a little bit ashamed, but also proud of what you were seeing on screen.
He was a little bit like Werner Pochath's nice twin brother.
Yes.
And then we're off to Beirut, right? I think. I can't read my right.
Yes, supposedly Beirut. That's the levitating girl. So the girl who levitates
That's right.
Stuff and then eventually levitates guys' dicks.
And then
including an old man who seems very happy to have his dick levitated.
Oh, that's right. And some men's toupees in the audience too, because of the magnet there. That was quite funny. And is that it? And then there's an African dance is the last thing I've written down. Maybe I just ran out of paper.
Yeah, no, I said it's funny that actually seems quite athletic and sexy. I said like this seems almost out of place in this film. And then we just get back to more Amanda Lear doing like another.
She does another song.
What she thought was going the movie was actually going to be. So she does another.
She'd never seen a Joey Tomato film before.
It is intercut. No, you're right. It's intercut with the little goblin fucking magician guy pulling doves out of women's.
Right. Yeah, there we go.
That is in that.
That was good. That bit again. Crazy Nights. Not quite up there with Porno Night of the World for me, but a pretty good time. Do you enjoy this one, Gav?
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, they all sort of blur together these sort of clip movies after a while, don't they? Sort of. Yeah.
Without copious note taking, it's easy to get lost.
Mm-hmm.
An embarrassment of riches, or just an embarrassment if you're Amanda Lear, I guess. Unfortunately, we kind of go out, well, maybe you disagree with me, but I think we go out on a bit of a damp squib for this episode.
With
Porno Nights of the World 2. Yeah.
Yes.
Scandinavia Erotica, 1978. So instead of Laura Gemser, who will return in our next episode, there's one more roll of the dice, Emanuelle and the Porno Nights of the World.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have one more of these. But in the meantime, Gemser has been replaced by Aita Wilson.
Okay, is that how you say it? I was wondering.
Oh, I say it, Aita. I have no... I mean, it sounds more normal than Ajita.
Ajita, yeah.
But it could be. Or she could be Irish and it's actually pronounced Howard.
it's possible.
Howard Wilson.
Oh, nice.
The trans star from County Mayo of the Nude Princess and Black Deep Throat.
So yeah, I'm fascinated to know that that she appeared in like Jet magazine as like a pinup and stuff. Like I can't imagine that, you know, the average 1970s black male would have been too excited to find out that
Yeah, well, it's funny thinking about it. It's not as if this was a huge revelation in recent years, I think, because I remember even back in the day when I saw a few Ida Wilson films. I mean, it was pretty well known that she had transitioned, right? It wasn't like a deep dark secret.
Yeah.
But somehow, like you said, normally people who would be kind of in some way transphobic or something like that, Ida Wilson was given a, like, she was just considered a hot chick.
Yeah.
In some films, both softcore and hardcore. It is kind of interesting why people just overlooked it in her case, right? And kind of cool, kind of endearing that people just, you know what, she's hot enough that I don't care.
Right. And I do think, I mean, it's funny. I think she knew what she was getting into here. I don't think that she was not laboring under any, you know, false impressions about what this was. She was in a Joe D'Amato movie and would have known exactly what that was going to be.
Sadly, died quite young as well from a brain hemorrhage, right after a car accident.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not quite sure if she's playing herself or whatever, but she's a stewardess who arrives somewhere, and Marina Hedman, incidentally, sorry, I should do this, my mea culpa. Apologies to George Eastman because I suggested that he might have been involved in hardcore activity in Emanuelle in America. And apparently George Eastman was very much against such things, so he wouldn't have liked me to have said.
Oh.
So that wasn't him. Though I did figure out who it was. It's a bit of a George Eastman lookalike. He's intercut with Marina Hedman is the reporter here. She's the girl giving that man a blowjob in the hardcore incident in Emanuelle, America.
Okay.
She did a lot of softcore and hardcore. She was the one dragged off by the guy in the gorilla suit in Porno Night of the World as well.
Right.
Yeah, so she turns up to interview. Again, I'm not quite sure what qualifies Ida Wilson or the stewardess she's playing, but I mean, Marina Hedman's really deferential, right? Like she's some kind of weird sex philosopher or something.
Right.
And they talk gibberish, to be fair.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
And she tries to justify it, but, well, you know how sexy the Bible is. And then that's talking about Chaucer. And it's not wrong exactly, but it just seemed a little highfalutin for what happens in this film.
Agreed. Yeah. And there's an enormous amount of like white girls doing various like questionable indigenous dances and dressing up as like, there's just every other scene seems to be like another person's culture being denigrated through there's
a Cherokee dance, right?
Yep.
At some point.
Definitely not done by a girl who's Cherokee.
Some more footage from Pin-Up Playmates. This is the couple on a yacht.
What the fuck is he squirting? It looks like shaving foam.
Yeah, I was wondering that. That doesn't look like suntan lotion.
No.
Is he going to shave her? Is that
I don't know.
I need to see Pin-Up Playmates now to see if there's a lengthy.
Because he really does lather her up.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know. Did suntan lotion look like that in the 70s? I mean, the 70s were.
Somebody needs to let us know.
Yeah. Anyway, and yes, finally we get some proper ping pong ball action.
Yes.
Although it's clearly not done. You know, you can go to Bangkok and see this stuff done for real, but clearly some special effects have been used in this version. Right.
Yeah. Oh yes. But there's also, so did that happen before? There's a scene, I can't remember because my notes don't make any sense because it was all madness. But there's like some belly dancing footage, and that's intercut with these two men who are watching. A woman do belly dancing, and then they start making out together, and Yeah.
Yeah, it's an odd. I mean, I appreciate the diversity and the inclusivity.
Yeah.
It is a bit. Oh, okay. I guess maybe in '78, like something a bit gay would have been transgressive enough to get into this kind of doc, right?
Right. But it also felt to me like that was footage that was shot elsewhere at a different time, and that the belly dancing footage was from like an older film or something like that. So it was also
Yes.
equally weird. It was like one of those fucking you know, Godfrey Ho films
Yes.
where
Yes.
characters who are not in the same film are interacting with each other through the magic of editing.
Yeah, it was all. Yeah, it is almost IFD levels at times. Yes, they were. Those two gay men were in fact also watching Jimmy Cricket, and got so excited. And yes, as you mentioned earlier, revoltingly long mud wrestling scene, and
oh, but what's fascinating
mud
about this
is your thing.
is that so it's these two kind of like Hausfrau looking German ladies, I'm assuming, wearing bathing caps, which is the sexiest look ever, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, wrestling for a while, and then they pan over to this, like they're in a tent or something, right? Like at a village fucking fair in like outside of Dusseldorf. They pan over to this crowd, and there's children there who are like, yeah, like 7-year-old boy, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then as the scene plays out and gets increasingly explicit, you're like, is the kid still supposed to be watching this? Like, it's just, yeah, very disconcerting.
They need to insert a bit where someone just comes in and says, "Okay, orange squash and crisps in the other tent."
Yeah, get your candy floss.
I don't know. We have to ask Gav here. How does the mud wrestling here compare with Hellcat mud wrestlers?
Oh, that's not fucking. You're much better. Anything better than Hellcat mud wrestling. But you've seen some footage from that, haven't you, in Attack of the Killer Computer?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, so you know what you're in for there.
So then we have some living statues. Some oh yeah, so the other thing as well that's weird about this. So it starts off with this framing device of Ada Wilson being interviewed by Marina Hedman.
Mm-hmm.
But then after a while, they stop with that, and it's just Ada Wilson just like lounging around and addressing the audience directly, right? And then goes back to the reporter later on.
And then now in this case, this is a scene where she's actually appearing as a performer.
Yes,
like
with a living
her
statue.
dancing with, and again, not to to beat a dead horse, which I'm surprised. I don't think we had that in this one.
We need an insert of a dead horse being beaten.
But yeah, dancing next to a guy made up as a naked statue is also very something we'd see in a Japanese.
Right. Yeah, they were taking notes, man.
I feel like like every scene, like it spawns an entire genre of
the whole series on
27 parts.
The guy who started Rocket definitely been watching these films. Yeah, Omar's back, but this time he's a man with a totally different man with a whip.
Yes.
Rather than the world's greatest lover, whatever the fuck he was before.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's some whipping and some cutting in another scene. There's a guy cutting someone and licking the blood.
Yeah, and Omar has tearaway clothes in this, which is interesting. He's like a proper male stripper himself, right? Because she just pulls up his pants and they just tear off in one piece. And he looks a bit like 1969 era Iggy Pop, like from the front cover of the first Stooges album with his little kind of bob hair and his little
six-pack. I Want to Be Your Dog.
I was thinking about that. I think I wrote that down.
Right. Then they take some time out to make some fun of American tourists, which is always fun. I can't remember the context, but there's some American tourists somewhere looking at something exotic, and Ada Wilson and Marina Hedman like, these Americans are such losers. How unsophisticated they are. And Ada Wilson says, you should be nice to them. They're, lame-brained or something. Like, it's intimated that, Americans are in some way subhuman. And
So-
I'm not going to argue with it. So, on to dancing with. Oh yeah, dancing with fake polystyrene phalluses, fake
Wait,
marble.
wait. So did we skipped over the scene then where there's like a sub guy who's tied up, whipped, and then fed excrement?
Shit. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah. Sorry, that carries on. I thought my notes are in a weird. Yeah. There is some shit eating, except the shit does look very much like delicious chocolate.
Thank God. Yeah.
It's not.
But
too...
it did make me wonder again, like, you know, if you were like just a regular raincoater who's gone to see this in the cinema, like what your response. I mean, I'm sure there's one guy in the audience who's like, oh,
yes,
finally, thank God. But like 99% of the people in the audience
as possible before they change.
But I'm going to say 99% of the audience is probably going to be like, oh, this is a step too far. I don't need to see this.
Yeah, the whole theater goes quiet so you can actually hear the one guy hopping away.
Anyway.
Don't judge! Don't judge! So yes, there's that. Yeah, no, it's yeah, no, but it doesn't look well. It is conceptually gross, but it does look so shit
realistic. Yes,
and
then you're right,
like
and then
Nutella or something, doesn't it?
And then we do have Aita making out with an enormous, polystyrene.
I would just like to plug my own film here and say that the shit sandwich in my own film looked a lot more disgusting
than
it did, thanks to the acting talents of Ron Scott.
Nice.
Yes. Then there's a Zorro themed stripper. I mean,
yes, I think it's Omar again, right? Yeah, I think it's. I think
could be. Yeah, he's all.
I think it is Omar back again, and yeah, he's got this kind of like goth girl that he does all of these duo acts with, who's got makeup like John Waters oversaw.
Yes,
like
yes.
It's very like divine with these massive.
Yeah, where you shave the hairline back to make more room for eye makeup, right?
Yeah.
And then,
yeah.
so
I think my only note on that says this scene seems to have gone on for 5 hours. So clearly, I wasn't enjoying whatever the fuck Omar was doing in that section.
Swan Lake next, and yeah, so this has been relatively wholesome, I suppose.
Well, yeah, I mean, I remember the shit-eating scene in Sound of Music. It's one of the, you know.
And then Joey Tomatoes was obviously, this is, we need a little oomph, we need a little oomph. So we get the Swan Lake as you've never seen before, because I haven't seen a production of Swan Lake before where a small pony is brought on stage and jerked off.
Yes,
to mass audience applause.
And so this is the section where I have a note that just says, like, what were these people actually watching? And like, how happy must they be?
They were watching a pony being jerked off.
Okay.
The 70s were a different time, Nick.
Okay.
It was either this or stay home and watch Starsky Hutch.
Directly after this, we get yet another of there's a lot of Aita really laying it to the Calvinists and Puritans in this. It's like a real bête noire for her. And so yeah. Anyway,
she also has a go at punks at this. She has a lot of punk chic. All it is punk shit.
Yep.
And then we get some kind of Roman toga themed naked disco.
Yep, with a bunch of people body painted and a girl with like daisies in her minge.
Yes, and that bearded DJ guy who was, I think, in one of the scenes in Porno Nights of the World. So it's clear the same club they filmed parts of that.
Right.
At. Yeah. And there we have it, Porno Nights of the World 2.
I think it ends with Aita. Then she does start making out with the other. There's like kind of a lesbian scene between her and the woman from the beginning of the film,
Marina Hedman.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And then it finishes with the quote, "Any way of making love is beautiful and true."
That's right.
Kind of nice. But then it finishes even more impressively with an ad for the holiday in Rome. where fucking D'Amato actually says, "Oh yes, we filmed all of the scenes with
Right.
with Agita or what Aita in the Holiday Inn Rome." I was like, how happy must they have been to have like their name in print at the end of a film that
There
included.
was queues around the block the next day to see the small pony and the shit eating.
Like just wow. Yes, D'Amato has some brass balls.
This was more boring though than the other one for me. I have to admit there were a few highlights, but I found this a slightly, maybe I just seen too many of them at this point. But this was a step down. It wasn't quite the breakneck. Some of the scenes go a bit too long in this.
Yeah.
I think it sort of peaked early with the woman finding the balls out of her vagina. That's a tough act to follow.
We found Gav's niche.
Well, luckily there's a 27-part series by Soft On Demand called Ping Pong Extravaganza.
Or something like that.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's I'm actually, I have to say it's nice that I can take a little break from it now, and then I'll be refreshed when I come back to the last of this set. I'm looking forward to coming back to the last Laura Gemser or one of these.
This has definitely been the most satisfying batch thus far. Would you agree, lads?
For me, yes. There was no adventure film about like Canadian Mounties that I suffer through in the middle of my sleaze. It was just very consistently sleazy.
Well, yeah. Hold on to your hats, because next time we're not even there's no dodgy comedies. There's nothing like that. It's pretty much, looking at the list here, yeah, it's pretty much banger after banger after banger. In terms of we're sleazing it up all the way next time, and
it's a morass of sleaze.
Yeah. No, this is a project which is it's yielding riches already, I think.
Yes, we're reaping the dividends.
Yes. So I guess until next time on the D'Amato Files,
let's take a picture of love. Do 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 do.
To take a picture of love.